Hey guys, I'm learning TFT and I'm sharing my learnings with you so that you can learn and I can learn better as well. In this video, I'm going to do a brief overview of 15.6 versus 15.5 initial stats. These are filtered by Master Plus to make sure we have a reasonable sample size, and we'll be able to see the AVP, pick rate, win rate, top 4 rate difference between last patch and this patch. And I broke down for each comp what the patch impact was as far as the units, traits, augments, items, power-ups, etc. So I'm not going to go over all of them, but I'm just going to try to get a high-level overview of the largest impacts. And the way to start off with that is really to review the AVP diff. So Drift Duo Lucian. This one I filtered by 3-star Lucian, 3-star Senna with a +1 on Mighty Beck. Got a big buff. Both GP and Yone got buffed. 5 mech was buffed. The overall 7 mech was nerfed, but you can see here that the stats are significantly better. Likely because in the mid game you can play around 5 mech and that's a lot stronger, preserving the HP, which probably allows you to preserve that preserved HP, probably gives you the ability to get to Yone 2 with a higher confidence level. And that potentially gives you a higher win rate, 4% increased win rate to make up for the fact that 7 mech itself was nerfed. Nico Hero Augment, AVP actually got worse. But the big thing I want to call out on this one is that the Nico pick rate between last patch and this patch went down significantly. So this is GM plus, 15.6 is 1.1 pick rate, whereas 15.5 was a 2.0 pick rate. So it's basically half the pick rate of last patch, which means that you are far more likely to be able to hit Nico 3 if you pick the Nico Hero Augment. Whereas last patch, if you have 3 people, sometimes even 4 people going Star Guardian, your odds of hitting Nico 3 are basically nothing. Another thing to note about all the hero augments is that Riot Shadow put in an augment tailoring at 2-1 for 15.5, which they reverted, which is why you didn't see very many hero augments last patch. So this patch, we should be seeing a lot more hero augments appear. So that's just something to keep in mind. Shen Hero Augment was nerfed. Over 9k was also nerfed. I forget what the best... I think it's just like double strike for Shen. So maybe over 9k is not necessarily that impactful. But yeah, over 9k is usually one of his best. So his overall win rate and top 4 rate went down. But you should be able to see this more, and the AVP is still very good. The very clear winner in this patch is Jana, because the veteran power-up was moved to a primary, from secondary to primary. All it really means is your odds of being able to see it went up significantly, so you can basically hard force Jana now, whereas before you had to worry about hitting your power-up. Now the odds are very good. Veteran 4 Mentor was nerfed, but Udyr and Ryze were both buffed, and so with the nerfs to all the other comps, Mentor Jana is by far the best comp in the game right now, with a 16% win rate. For Reroll is very good. I suspect part of that is because Ryze is like quite a viable dual carry now with his buffs. You can see here, Ryze's spell damage was buffed by almost 10%, which is quite reasonably high. Usually 5% is like a small or small buff or nerf, and 10% is like a large one. By over 9k nerf impacted the AVP, but the win rate is still roughly the same. Vi actually has the highest win rate, I believe, out of all of the hero augments. Yeah. So a big part of playing Vi is being able to snowball early and having slammable items, hitting your Vi 2 ahead of tempo. So this, ideally, you either have like a Vi already or a Vi pair that you can make Vi 2, then this easily becomes the best hero augment in the game. If you can have a slammable item and a Vi 2 on 2-1, you just win because you snowball from the loot that she's able to get you. Soul Fighter, not much changed, but it was already quite reasonably strong. And with Star Guardian going down, this is quite good. 6 and 8 Soul Fighter were nerfed, but there weren't that many changes here. Slight decrease in win rate and top 4 rate. The key thing is that you have to play Soul Fighter from tempo. This is not a comp that you really want to be playing from middle or behind because the win rate's low. I've talked about that with comps like Yumi before. But from a tempo spot, it's still quite good. Like I think I got a second, third, second yesterday playing Soul Fighter on the new patch. Bastion Kog'Maw, the monster bag change for monster I guess monster toggling was confirmed not really a thing. It was just that monsters had a much larger bag size. Normally 3 costs have an 18 unit bag size. Instead it was 54, which is why you could have 3 different monster players hit. Now it's at 22. So your odds of being able to hit are lower. But it didn't really impact the stats that much. And Donkor was nerfed. This line goes up significantly if you have an artifact. Like if you look at any of these Kog'Maw lines, Flicker Blade, Donkor, Static Shiv, Lichbane, all very good on Kog'Maw and basically take you to around an 18-19% win rate with Kog'Maw compared to a 12% win rate. Like, so increases your win rate by like 50% if you have one of his core artifacts, which easily pushes Kog'Maw into S tier with an artifact. Heavy Kog'Maw is just an inferior line to Bastion Kog'Maw, though if you have early Dariuses, you have 80 melee items instead of traditional tank items, and if someone else is playing Bastion, so it's going to be hard for you to play for a Swain 3, then Heavy Cog can make sense. Mech Akali got slightly worse on AVP, but though the pick rate did go down, the win rate also went slightly down. Akali herself was nerfed, but Ryze and Lee Sin were buffed, so and Donkor was nerfed. So kind of a mixed bag across the board. Key thing with Akali is, especially at higher elos, it's hard to win because people know how to position around it. At lower elos, the win rate likely is better because players don't really know how to position around it. Katarina, AVP went up. Over 9k was nerfed and Trickster was removed. So some of her better power-ups aren't there, but it's still quite reliable, especially now that Jana is the dominant reroll comp in the game. Anytime reroll's good at a certain cost, then it usually makes the other reroll lines at that same cost tier better as well, because they're all taking the 2 costs out of the pool, which means your gold efficiency and your ability to hit gets a lot easier. And the other thing to keep in mind with 2 cost meta being 2 cost reroll being good, this is an idea that Marcel talked about before, is that when 2 cost reroll is good, it makes 1 cost reroll less good. And the reason for that is because oftentimes, let's say Crew or not so much Kale, but let's say with Crew, you want to get strong at 3-1 because you're doing a bunch of rolling, you hit all your 2-star 1 costs. But then if there is a 2 cost reroll meta, so if you're the 1 cost player, ideally you want to be able to streak like 3-1 through basically stage 3, right? Especially if it's a fast 8 meta and everyone else kind of playing passively, not utilizing their gold, you can oftentimes streak stage 3. The problem with playing 1 cost in a 2 cost meta is that if on 3-2, there are many 2 cost reroll players like Jana, Katarina, even if there's Xayah, then, or even Lux, then in that case, you are likely going to be losing starting on 3-2. So you just deployed a bunch of resources on 3-1, hoping that you would be strong for stage 3, but you actually end up taking losses, which really hurts your ability to preserve HP, play for top 4s, and cap out in the late game. So that's one thing to keep in mind is if we think about Crew's AVP did go up by 0.4, likely because my hypothesis for this would be that the cap against like Star Guardian got like the win rate went up, top 4 win rate went up because you're facing less of these really strong 4-cost lines. But part of it could also be that and TF was buffed and max vitality was buffed. So I suspect Malphite and max vitality is quite good now, especially if you have a 2-star Malphite and slammable tank item in the early game. All right, so going back to 2-cost reroll, quite good. Mundo, and that also applies to the Vi, Shen, and Mundo hero augments. Anytime you can get those, and you basically should expect there to be at least one Jana player per lobby now, which means that if you're playing 2-cost hero, it just makes it a lot easier for you to hit. Mundo's hero augment was nerfed, but max vitality, which is Mundo's best hero augment, because his damage scales with his HP, and max vitality was buffed by a lot. Let me see how much. Yeah, it was almost double in HP gain per 10 second, which is pretty insane. So I suspect that Mundo's AVP should be higher than this once people really realize how strong max vitality is with Mundo. And I suspect that this is probably higher at higher elo for people that do know that max vitality is good on Mundo. Jinx got worse by 0.2, pick rate went down, win rate and top 4 rate went down by a sizable margin. Seraphine was buffed, but Xayah and Jinx Star Guardian bonuses were nerfed. Keepers was nerfed, which is basically Star Guardian's best augment, and their best power-ups, the best defense and gather force were nerfed as well. I should also mention in Mentor Jana that best defense was nerfed for Kobuko because that's Kobuko's best power-up as well. So lots of nerfs across the board for Jinx. It's still playable, still quite solid, just won't be as oppressive and dominant in the late game. 15% to 12% win rate is quite a big difference, and 56 to 52% top 4 rate. This is now like probably squarely in A tier as opposed to the dominant S tier 4-cost line. Protector Cog is just another way to play Cog. A lot of times when you're playing Cog, you just want to figure out which units, frontline units you already have and can tempo with, and ideally can hit the 3-cost 3-star. So it's whether or not you can hit, and what items you have, right? Whether you can hit Nico 3, whether you can hit Swain 3, whether you can hit Darius and Jace 3. 7 Mighty Mech. AVP improved by 0.1. Similar logic to Drift Duelution. GP, Lee, Sin, Yone were all buffed. 5 Mech is easier to play in the mid game, but 7 Mech was nerfed. Heavyweight Smolder, just another variant of monsters. Smolder himself was buffed. And so this depends on what items you have. It's just whether or not you have Kog'maw items or whether you have Smolder items. Kale over 9k was nerfed, but the AVP for Kale improved by 0.3, and the win rate and top 4 rate went up by 2 and 3% respectively. A big part of this is that, again, going back to Jinx being nerfed, which was really the really hard part for Kale is getting to 9. And sometimes with Kale at level 9, the Jinx boards would still take it out. But now that the Jinx boards aren't as strong, you're saving more HP in stage 4. And once you get to level 9, you're actually able to beat the Jinx boards. So if you look at the win rate across all the comps that we've talked about so far, only Vi has a higher win rate. And Vi is a very conditional comp. So Kale in the right spot, which is still quite conditional. You need to have a lot of copies of Kale early. You likely want to be playing on a econ portal or have an augment on 2-1 like Pandora's Bench. Like I just actually played a game yesterday with Kale. This I had Pandora's Bench, so I easily hit the Kale and Zach 3 ahead of tempo. And Pandora's Bench is also great because then you can roll for Varus in the late game. So you really need to have slammable items. You need to have, which is ideally JG or Deathcap plus, or your core items are GS, red buff, and then a rod damage item like JG or Deathcap. And Kale is quite good. So I would prioritize holding Kale with the right items, and especially on Econ Portal. Bastion Yasuo. This one's Yasuo himself was nerfed. I forget how big the nerf was. Oh, Yasuo base spell less likely to hit backline when other units are nearby. So you're less likely to scam fights. Trickster was removed. Although Hemorrhage is still his best power up, so it's not that big of a difference. This is somewhat conditional upon having the emblem or a ranged artifact. But it didn't really change too much. Mentor Cat's just an inferior version of the regular Katarina reroll. Edgelord Lucha, I'm not going to talk about this one. Malphite, Hero Augment. I was surprised to see this rise by so much. And I'm not actually sure why, because Protagonist was nerfed and over 9k was nerfed. The only thing I can think of is that TF was buffed as like the cap out. But yeah, or this could just be small sample size right now. But in general, the one cost hero augments are all much worse. So this is Malphite, Kennen, Garen, Zac. They're all averaging a 4.5 or lower. I did filter these stats by 3 stars. So a big thing with why Protagonist is broken is your ability to get to 4-star. Once you get to 4-star, then the AVPs, I think, all go under 4.5 except for Zac. I think Zac is still around 4.6 or something. So Protagonist last patch was like an auto click, and now it doesn't look that amazing unless you just high roll, right? And so I think it really depends if you have slammable item and you already can have copies, and you can hit like a 2-star very early. What else do I want to call out here? I'm not going to go through all of them. Yuumi got worse. Seraphine was buffed. Blighting Jewel buff. I don't know why. Okay, the hypothesis, I'm like trying to guess why it got worse. Because AVP got worse by 0.2. Win rate went down by 2%. Top 4 rate went down by 4%. This almost is like Yuumi is unplayable. I would even put this C tier. Okay, so the hypothesis is because Jana is the dominant S tier comp now, you're getting a lot of pressure in stage 3, taking a lot of damage. And then even if you hit your whole board in stage 4, which oftentimes you don't hit until like 4 or 5, let's say, you're taking a ton of damage. And then even after you hit, you maybe have until the end of stage 4. And then once stage 5 rolls around, 5-1, the Jana board hits all of their 3 stars. They hit Kobuko 3, they hit Jana 3, they're pushing levels, and then you just start losing. Like you can't win again, right? The 7% win rate out of all these comps here, Yuumi has the lowest cap. So now that it can't even win stage 4 much unless you perfectly hit everything, I feel like Yuumi is just like not playable unless you're playing from an extremely tempo spot where you preserved a ton of HP, you're able to hit it ahead of tempo, And then really you need to cap out around Seraphine 2 to be able to convert this into like a top 4. So the conditions are very narrow. This play rate, 0.5 here, probably should be much lower. One exception is that Blinding Jewel was buffed, so Blinding Jewel can be good on that line. Karma, AVP actually improved. Why is that? I guess maybe because Jinx is less oppressive to it. Yeah, I don't know why Karma was improved because there's no other. Ari was actually nerfed. I guess Ari was buffed. I don't know why I have that in the nerf category. Although usually, yeah, I don't know how much of this is just Ari being better or something else in the meta. If you happen to have a hypothesis on why Sword Karma is better, let me know in the comments. All right, crew we talked about got better because TF, and then max vitality quite good. And then what else is interesting here? Oh, Fast 9. So we have Fast 9 Varus here, we have Fast 9 Jug here, and Fast 9 Bastion. So all of these Fast 9 lines got better. Specifically Juggernaut and Varus. And I'm seeing a lot more of this Juggernaut variation. Key idea here is that TF, Zyra, Lee Sin, Udyr all got better. And that's why the Fast 9 Juggernaut variation like improved 0.6 AVP, 8% win rate, top 4 rate, improved by 12%. I think it is pretty optimal now to, reminds me of, what was it, the first patch or second patch of the new set that people were playing Golden Edge and Art of Fast 9 regularly. And I think that's back, but only for econ encounters. So if there's an econ encounter, I suspect that playing towards Angling Fast 9, if you have the right spot, if you can tempo preserve HP, if you can get double econ augments, this is back. Because the win rate here, 19%, 17%. Again, Vi Hero being a very conditional situation, Kale also being a very conditional situation, Crystal being a very conditional situation. Fast 9 seems to actually be the highest cap in a game, in a normal game, if you can get there. Because just so many of the 5 costs were buffed. So yeah, that is the overall analysis of 15.6 versus 15.5. Keep in mind that this is 1 day's worth of data of Master Plus. There is likely going to be stuff that changes. I think one big thing is that all of the new power-ups, I suspect that there will be new discoveries. Like I think I saw Kyun was playing a Noxious Trap heavy mouse reroll that worked out really well for him. I think he steamrolled the lobby. So as some of these new power-ups are optimized more, there will likely, I suspect that there will be at least 1 or 2 new comps that pop up, possibly 1 or 2 comps that start dominating the meta and become S tier. Just because this new power-up system creates so much, the lines are so fine that like the moment something new is discovered that's broken, it could take it up to the top. So that's something to keep an eye out for. With that said, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.